Once again, I'm asking you to knit me some mittens. My dog has given you the good view this morning. See if I can bring it up. Dog ween. He is giving us the good stuff today, my friends. Lovely. Good morning, everyone. Oh man, that is some good stuff right there. Apologies. Is that NSFW? I don't know. Is that gonna get me banned? Is that against Twitch TOS? I don't know. This dog has the funniest sleeping style. I swear. Like, we have this little sofa in front of our bed that kind of like faces the TV, like a little love seat, and that's where he sleeps at night. Sometimes we'll be watching TV in bed, and he'll be on the love seat, and he just like sticks his forelegs like straight up into the air, like he'll be laying on his back, and his legs like vertical. So funny. What is going on? See how this goes today. So, I started a little bit late. We had a meeting with our designers for our remodel this morning because we had some financial hiccups, as is the case when you're doing like a remodel that's like the quarter of the price of your home. We had to like get with them today and chat about money, fun stuff. We're live. Let's switch it over. Good morning, everyone. Or good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. We're here at our regularly scheduled time. Money stuff sucks. It does. You know, it's weird that like money's only real when like you need it. You know. We're here in Washington. We're arguing about a difference of $600 billion, you know, and my wife and I are having to shave off a couple of $1,000 here and there to like make our house more livable. I don't know. It's weird. It's such a weird thing. It's been a weird money week. What is real? What money is real? What money is not real? Oh, it sucks. But you know what? When it works out, when you figure out something, that's where we are right now. You should work for the military-industrial complex. I should get a job with the military-industrial complex. It is, man. They did, actually. The next one's, yeah. So we finally got, I don't know if you were here when I mentioned it on the last stream, but I finally got my stimmy check. I have to email that guy, actually. I have to email him and say thanks. I don't know if you did anything, but I got in touch with my representative in Washington's office and left a message, and then I got a call back from like their dude who is like the liaison between her office and the IRS. Sorry, let me just write this in my notebook real quick so I don't forget to do it this week. He left me a very nice message and said, please call us or email me directly and we can get this figured out why you're not getting your check. And then like 2 days later it hit our account. So I don't know. I never got back with him. So I don't know what happened there, but I'm gonna assume that something happened. I don't know, but it was nice to know at least that somebody's listening there, and they had an expert willing to help me. So yeah, but yeah, hopefully the next one doesn't take so long. But Fort Collins is not so far. Fort Collins is 45 minutes from here. Beautiful town. I suggest visiting there if you are ever in the area. Little college town. When you're able to go to like bars and stuff like that, it's kind of the microbrew, a little microbrew hotspot. That's where New Belgium is located, and Odell and a bunch of other ones. Water is all over my desk. Good spot to visit for some beer, some food. It's in the shadow of Rocky Mountain National Park, which is breathtaking. If you've never been there, you should go. You're gonna go to up to that area, and you can just stop right there. If you go any further north than that, you're in Wyoming, and it's no good. It's no good. You got to go another like 8 hours from there to find anything worthwhile in Wyoming. That's like Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Parks. But yeah, hope you guys are having a good start to the week. Had a good weekend and all that. Mine was pretty good. Nobody contacts me at all on my phone until I start streaming, and then everybody sends me links and text messages and phone calls. It's like, people know, man. Yeah, you like that dog cam? Dude, it's like, yikes. I know. Sorry about that. I'm not gonna turn it off. It's just, that's just good stuff. That's good TV. He's like, look at my lack of balls. Check out my ween. I don't know. I can't turn. I'm not turning it off because it's just too perfect. Oh man, funny stuff. This dog. He's having himself a weekend. This guy. I love him to death, but he is just like. So our neighbors, dude. I was just talking about this. So we have this like love seat in front of our bed, at the foot of our bed. That like we sometimes sit there to watch TV. We have a TV in our room. We shouldn't have one, but we do. But anyway, that's where the dog sleeps at night. And so sometimes like my wife and I will be in bed watching TV, and he's sleeping on the bed, and he'll just like roll over, and he puts his arms and legs like vertically. I can't even do it like this, you know. And it's to the point where it's like blocking the TV, and he's asleep. Like, I don't know. He's a weirdo. He's having himself a weekend though. Like he's just kind of. I'm chasing the cat around a lot, which is like a pain. And we have our neighbors across the street are like, they've got like this shipping container that they're filling up. They're from Senegal, and I think they're like getting a shipment ready to send a whole bunch of stuff back to their family in Senegal. And so there's people out there all the time, like just putting stuff in this shipping container. And it's right outside of our fence, and so he just goes outside and he does his business, and then he just like barks because there's just always people out there, and he just keeps barking. I'm just like, guy, calm down. My God, chill. Oh man. So yeah. Today we're gonna chat a little bit about. I don't know why I'm getting these out. I don't need those. I just have to fidget when I'm talking. We have a monthly book and movie club that we kind of have been doing, and it's been kind of this. There hasn't really been a regular. This has not been a regular occurrence, like talking about these books, and it's kind of been like an honor system book and movie club where we don't like have a lot of like conversation afterwards. I have had a hard time figuring out the best way to do that. You know. So, and it's kind of a modest book club anyway, so it's hard to get everybody together. But it's still fun for me to like have the votes and have the suggestions from the community as far as like what books to read. And I've done more reading in the last 2 years since we started this thing. This is our third full year of book club we're starting now. Amazing. I read 18 books last year, which is like probably an all-time high for me. I mean, they weren't all like The Stand and War and Peace, but I read 18 books last year. So it's helped me kind of like, reading helps me slow down a little bit. It helps me like break away from screens, and it helps me kind of like focus on something slow, which I have a hard time doing sometimes, especially in the last year or so. So it's really been beneficial for me, on top of like getting some really good stories and learning a lot. And the thing I like doing with book club as far as picking a theme every month is that it mixes it up. And so I read things that I wouldn't normally read. I've gotten myself into genres that I normally wouldn't like. I normally wouldn't read. You know, I'm normally just like, I'm gonna read this. Like the last time I was really into reading books, it was like I was reading the Wheel of Time series. I was like, I'm just gonna read this whole series. I'm just gonna keep going because there's like 13 books or 20 books or whatever. And although those books are good, I think mixing it up. And now I'm to the point where it's like my reading backlog is larger than my gaming backlog. To say that like I've read such good books in the last couple of years that I'm like, oh, this is part of a series. I want to keep reading that series someday. Or like this author has these other books that are also supposed to be really good, and those are on my list too. So I'm still working on Dune too. So hold on, let me go get that. I have about half an inch left on Dune. So I don't know what page you're on or what version of the book you have. I got like this. So I was like, oh, it's a classic. I'm gonna get like the fancy hardcover one. So I got this nice, like, I think it's one of the latest editions, which I then proceeded to spill coffee on. I'm on page 484 of, let's see, the story ends. There's all these like afterwards and appendices and all that stuff. 623. So I've got like 150 pages left or so. Yeah, you got a good knuckle of Dune. Yeah. It's good, and that's the thing about Dune, is that it's been, and I'm really enjoying it. And I like that like the book that we got for February is like, it's tiny. You know, it's like, not only is it like it's 100 and something pages, but it's also like this big. It's a wee little guy. It's like a little bathroom reader. So I'll be able to finish Dune. I'll be able to read that, and I have another book that I want to read. What I'm trying to do is kind of like keep a balance of, this year I want to read 24 books. That's my goal, is like average like 2 books a month. So I'm trying to keep like a serious book. So it's like, you know, a history book or some sort of self-help book or something like that, like a nonfiction, something a little bit more heavy in subject matter, and then have like my like fun book, like my, you know, those are the 2 books I try to balance at the same time. Something that's a little more either just fiction or a little bit lighter, or something I've always wanted to read or something like that. So that's Dune right now, is that for me is my kind of like my TV series book. Yeah, it's hard. And I mean, there's no, that's kind of, I didn't want the book club to be like this, like you have to have it finished by this date. And I wanted to like keep the books for the most part. That's why I thought like in 2 months I'd be able to read Dune, because I'm like 300 pages in a month is about what I can manage. Sometimes more than that, depending on the book. Like this Atomic Habits I read in like a day and a half. It was super easy. I try to keep them so that they're like manageable. But Dune was just, I don't know why it's taken me so long to get through this book. I think it's just the size of it in general is a little bit daunting, where it's just like, oh man, like this is my wife read The Stand, which is like 1,000 pages in like less than a week. You know, I don't know how she did it, how she reads that fast, but when I get into it, I can like chew through it a lot. Yeah, the vocabulary is dense, and I do have to I do find myself, I'm at the point now, 480 pages into the book, where I think I can like at least remember, because I've been reading it for 3 months now. I can at least remember based on the context like what they're talking about as far as the like titles and the planet names and who everyone is and the name and the character names and all that stuff. But there is also like the glossary kind of in the back of like terminology. So I do find myself flipping back and forth occasionally there to like refresh my memory, especially if I haven't read it in a while. But also some of that stuff I just kind of like don't like. I'm like, I'm not really concerning myself with the geography of the planet. You know, I'm more concerned about like the political machinations and like who these people are and the kind of like lore. It's really good though. I'm really enjoying it. Like I don't want to. It's the reason it's taking so long is definitely not because I'm not enjoying the book. I just kind of, you know, holidays and whatever. Like it's been hard to get through it, or it's taken a long time. But I'm enjoying it. So I think since nobody's done with that, we'll talk about that one some more as far as like the details of the story go. Maybe next month when we finally get it done. But keep working on it. I'm still working on it. So like, if you guys are enjoying it, like keep working on it, and we can like have a conversation about it. You know, when we're all through the book, because I am interested at this point to see like how it ends. I've never read it before. I haven't seen the movie. Me too. I should have it done. I was hoping to get it done like this week or next week. So, but I don't know how the story ends. So I'm like excited to kind of. It's fun to read a book this long, where there are like stakes that are in the universe. The stakes are very high, and not know how it ends. So, and especially a book that's like 40 years old that I've never, or more, like 50 or 60 years old that I is so popular that I don't know how it ends. It's like a rare thing. So, so yeah, that's this is November and December's book, that we're all still kind of chugging through. Atomic Habits was a book that has been on our list. So last year in January, we started. January is like our self-betterment month for book club. And I like to do that just because it's like, I know it's like cheesy to do like you know, your New Year's resolutions. Like I'm not really like a resolutions guy. I don't have like my list of like this year I want to do all these things, you know. And so like this book, we'll get into it a little bit, but like this book actually was like helpful in that respect. It kind of like reaffirmed kind of my mindset as far as that stuff goes. But so last year we read Digital Minimalism, which was really good too. That's by Al Newport, and that one actually like spurred me. I was in kind of a change mode, a changing mode. Personally, I'm gonna turn this off for now. But I was kind of I was in more of an exploratory mindset. Personally at that point, so I was looking to make some changes in my life, and one of the things that book really helped me kind of like break free of like some social media and kind of like make social media work for me a little bit better than it was, than I was working for it. I still work for social media. I still click on ads and I still get served information, but I feel like I'm more aware of it now. It was kind of an awakening for me, and I did like can't like delete my Facebook account after reading that book. Not directly after, but like I made a plan to do it. So you know, that was helpful. But I liked the idea of starting the year off with like, you know, having some information, having a like buying a new tool, you know, basically starting the year off um, by learning a skill, or learning how to acquire a skill, or learning how to perfect or manicure your, you know, your personality, your life, your relationships with other people, like that sort of thing. I don't know. It's just it's in lieu of doing a list of resolutions and setting lofty goals. Just a little bit of like learning about yourself, and it can be sometimes hard to read books like this because they can be a little bit, they can hit a little close to home. Or they can like give you too many ideas. That's a problem for me as well, where I want to do this, I want to do that, I'm going to do it just like the person in this book is writing about, and that's not always realistic. It's good to read these things and then look at them in the context of your own, read these books and then look at them in the context of your own life, and see how like you can apply some of these lessons to, you know, your current systems. And this book worked really well in that respect. So the book was Atomic Habits. Glare, there it is, by James Clear. It was written a couple of years ago, 2018, so a relatively new book. I don't know how many people had read it before. It was on the list last year of books to read in January, and so we put it back. It was nominated again this year, and so we put it back on the list, and we chose it. Again, really good. It took me only a couple days to read it, and the way I read this book was almost kind of in like a textbook fashion. So I have a couple of, you can kind of see, maybe you can't, I have just a couple of like markers in the book of like sections that I wanted to go back to, or sections that I thought I could kind of fit into my current habits. So basically, like what it's about is how to kind of focus on the like type of person that you want to be, basically, and how to kind of like get closer to being that type of person by making like tiny changes that kind of like stack on top of each other, or have this like, you know, chain reaction, and kind of the reverse effect for like unbecoming a person that you don't want to be, or like breaking bad habits, basically. And so what he does is it's a very kind of like the book really spoke to me because he lays things out in a very structured way, and it's like kind of close to being a manual, you know, which is helpful, especially for people who kind of like read self-help books and skip right to the end. Enough about these little anecdotes. Like, tell me what I need to do to learn how to, like, you know, become a more successful business person, or how to stop smoking, or you know, what is just give me the menu for the fad diet, you know. I think that maybe hair in my mouth. I think that may be why it's you need to get better at keeping up reading. Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that, you know, this book could really help with, I think, is kind of like, you know, you make like just a kind of a light plan on how to do things, or you, and I haven't done this part yet, you analyze basically like what you're already doing, you know, what you're already doing as a habit on a daily basis. It could be a good habit or a bad habit, and then incorporating tiny little things into the habits you already have, and so that you kind of like sneak them in there, and then they also become part of your routine. And it's not like, I'm going to run for 5 miles every day starting tomorrow, you know. So you don't have to make like this huge leap, and it's not easy. Like it sounds simple. The methodology sounds pretty simple in theory, but in practice, especially if like you got a young kid, you've got a full-time job, like all of these things come into play. I'm, you know, as guilty of that as anybody. And I often have to go back and kind of like, hold on, there's a certain level of like self-awareness that has to come into play, where you have to be like, hold on, I'm kind of like, what happened here? Like I feel like I'm spinning like out of control. I had a good system going of, you know, these little tiny habits, these little routines that I did every day. And I was able to kind of like, sometimes you add and add and add, and then it becomes too much, and then other stuff starts falling by the wayside, or you're just like, oh, you know, I'm overwhelmed now, I need to back it off. And so one of the lessons I'm trying to take from this book is how to prevent that from happening. How to kind of like take things, he talks a lot about like doing things like 1% at a time, you know, like getting 1% better at something at a time, rather than trying to make like these huge leaps. What can you do today that can like improve that, or that can like push that boulder a little bit, and kind of like improve your life, or help you accomplish what you want to accomplish like a little bit at a time. And then, okay, can I go 1% further, 1% further, 1% further, and they all kind of stack, and before you know it, like, you know, again, in theory, you're kind of, you know, the thing just becomes natural, you know, because you've done it a little bit at a time. It's like lifting weights, I guess, you know. So he basically has like a whole, once you get to the end, he's got a whole chart here of like, which I liked kind of following along with the chart. Whoop. How to create a good habit, how to break a bad habit. And so as you go along in the book, it kind of it breaks everything down. Again, it's very methodical, and it is almost like a manual of how to like do this, which makes it really easy to understand. It's very, very concise, and it's laid out in a way that really makes a lot of sense. See if I can find one of these. After every chapter, there's like, so I just showed you the last one, but he kind of has like the roadmap, and then he fills it in like as the book is moving along. So this is after the first like chapter, the first group of laws. And he kind of talks about the laws of how to create a good habit, and then the inverse of that, the inversion of those laws of how to break it. So you can really kind of see how, and it's really just kind of opposites, you know, like the first law, you know, how to create a good habit, make it obvious. And the inversion of that is make it invisible, how to break a bad habit. So, and there are things you can, you know, he like the detail comes in when he's giving you kind of what that means, and kind of a playbook of how to frame your daily routines and your physical environment so that they are friendly to the thing that you want to do, or the person that you want to be. And again, like a lot of that stuff sounds obvious, but again, like if you're living in the same house and you are accustomed to a certain type of routine every day, it can actually make a really big difference. And I know this from other books that I've read. I was reading a book about like how to find a job, basically. And one of the exercises in that book was reframing, or like taking a very close look at like your surroundings on a daily basis. So one of the exercises in that book was basically like walk around your house, take an hour, you know, of your day or your weekend or whatever, and walk through around your house and kind of determine like where you spend the most time in your house. Like what areas of your house or your apartment or whatever do you go to every day? Where do you spend the most time? What are you doing when you're in those places? And then kind of like going one step further with that, like, are those places conducive to like what you should be doing, what you want to be doing? Are there distractions there? Is it when when you sit at your office and is it pleasing to you? Does it make you feel good to sit there? Like, why or why not? um and it was like I had never really done that before, like, and this kind of talks about that in the same sense, as far as like making things obvious, making things invisible. um if you want to like quit smoking or whatever, like, don't leave your cigarettes like right next to your bed or whatever, stuff like that, like physically make things. And it also kind of is another, that was another tool for digital minimalism, which I did adopt, was like, move your cell phone away from your bedside table. If you don't want to like use social media as much, then like physical things you can do to make social media more invisible, like turn off notifications, turn off alerts, don't have your phone right next to your bed so that it's not the last thing you check at night and then the first thing you check in the morning. Like, I put mine, it wasn't my bathroom, now it's like on a bookshelf across the bedroom for me, but I still like turn off notifications and plug it in across, which also helps me like not watch TV, because like I need that to like stream stuff to my TV. So all of these things kind of like, that's an example, a personal example of mine, that like that kind of helps me spend less time on socials, helps me kind of break myself away from my phone, because I want to read more. So I'm like, well, if I don't have my phone next to me, then I'm probably going to be more inclined to read. That's why you guys normally don't see me like on Discord a lot in the late night, because like my phone is away, but it helps me. That's one of the reasons why I got through so many books in the last couple of years, because I made that change to kind of just like, maybe, I don't, I've gotten some time back from my glowing rectangles. And I don't feel like I missed anything either, yeah, there are days when I like, especially like on hot news days, like there are days where I I binge on that stuff, but I feel like I'm not doing it all the time anymore, which I may have been doing before. Again, like not as bad as some people, but it was to an uncomfortable level for me at times. So this book kind of like, that was one of the things that I think I was kind of already doing based on kind of these other little pieces that I'd gotten from other books, but this book really kind of boils that whole idea down and makes it simplified. Like, if I had read this book before the other ones, I probably would have been doing it sooner. It took me a longer time to get to that point where I'm like, okay, like I'm happy with the amount that I'm reading, and the reason, like, I want to be the type of person who reads more, who reads books. That's what I would have said 2 years ago. How do I get there? It's like, I don't know, like just start buying books and then reading them. It's like, well, that's not specific enough. That's not changing my my reading habit. I want to have the good habit of reading, just doing it, not like feeling obligated to do it, but just like doing it because I want to do it. And so all of these little things that I've done for the last like couple of years have kind of stacked into this place where I can actually have a conversation about like books that I've read, with other people who read, and it's nice. Yeah, so let's see. So one of the things that I have not done yet, I just kind of want to make just kind of go through the four. It looks like I've got 4 sections that I really bookmarked, and a lot of this I'm coming into the mindset now personally of, what do I want to do next professionally? That's been something that, if you guys have been in these chatting streams recently, that's been something that I've been struggling with for the last year and a half. And COVID didn't help at all, but like for right before COVID hit, like I was really kind of struggling with like, I don't know what I want to do now. I was kind of doing like You know, started my own like web design business and was doing that like freelance for small businesses and stuff like that. But it wasn't like fun for me as I thought it was going to be. And that was kind of um, a big reason for me leaving my like safe job and going off to do something on my own, is because I wanted like a certain lifestyle. Um, and it just really didn't, maybe I was not working with the right clients. There's a lot of things going on there, but like, I really wanted to make a lifestyle change, and I'm still exploring that. And so I want to kind of like, I'm at the point now where the kids are back at school. Hopefully we'll by the end of this year we'll be like somewhat back to normal, and I'll be able to kind of like, you know, think about getting some sort of like full-time work or piecemeal freelance stuff that keeps me busy for 40 hours a week and pays some money. So that's where I'm approaching these types of books at this point, with like that kind of like, I want to be the type of person that has a job. um so that's, you know, when I was reading this book, that's where my mind was. What can I, how do I make that, how do I job? Because right now I don't job good, but I want to job better. So a couple of things that I pulled out of here, and I will kind of use this book. As I mentioned, it is kind of like a manual, and I will go back to it and kind of like reference it as such, step by step. And I do that with my bullet journaling book. I've done it with, you know, the digital minimalism book, the 50 ways to get a job book. Like, that's my manual, is pulling stuff out of other books. Maybe someday I'll write my own book if I ever figure out like how to have my own methodology for something. One of the things I want to do, and it's on my list of things to do this week actually, is create a habit list. So this is like very early in the book. It's like, you know, page 64, and doing like a habit scorecard he talks about. So this basically is, he's talking about maintaining an awareness of what we're actually doing. So this is basically like being aware of like what you are already doing every day. And I'm using this, you know, here's a sample of where your list might start, like wake up, turn off alarm, check my phone, go to the bathroom. It's like a very detailed list of things that you do every day, starting from when you wake up until, you know, you have a full list of your daily habits. And then basically what he asks you to do is to score all those things. So you make a list of everything that you do for the whole day, and then you put like a plus if it's a good habit, a minus if it's a bad habit, and a equal sign if it's a neutral habit. And then just kind of score it and say, like he's got like wake up, neutral, turn off alarm, neutral, check my phone, negative, go to the bathroom, neutral, weigh myself, positive, take a shower, positive, brush my teeth, positive, floss my teeth, positive, put on deodorant, positive, hang up towel to dry, neutral, get dressed, neutral, make a cup of tea, positive. So like doing all of those things, and then kind of like being honest and scoring yourself and saying like, okay, like this is probably like a negative habit, like, and then kind of within that kind of saying like, is this, do I want to change this? Can I change this? You know, can I, you know, where, and also like, where is there space to kind of like add something that would be positive or sub out a positive habit in place of this negative habit? So like, let's say you know, just for example, say you wanted to read more, and you have this same cadence of things in the morning, like wake up, turn off alarm, check my phone, go to the bathroom, weigh myself, take a shower. Like maybe you like wake up, turn off alarm, read 5 pages, and then, you know, maybe go to the bathroom first, read 5 pages, and then weigh yourself, take a shower. Like, you know, that's just a quick example, but like, you know, you don't, there is space for these things. And I think a lot of times it's like, when you think about setting goals for yourself or picking up new habits or routines, you're like, where am I going to fit this into my life? And I think if you put a little bit of work into it, you sometimes come to the realizations that like, oh no, you have time. Like, you know, we have those people that we admire in our lives, either, you know, famous people or people that we actually know, or people that we actually know that are famous. Where you're like, how do these people do all of these things? Like, how do they have time in their lives to like to travel to these places and to like do these things or run these businesses or whatever? And it's not always that. Yeah, there are some people who are like workaholics or only need 4 hours of sleep, you know. But for the most of us, like that's not the case. And I don't think that, like, I had this conversation with my brother last week about about you know, kind of, he was talking about the dude who did like the free solo of El Capitan, the rock climber, and how he basically was just kind of like, he did like nothing else, you know. He you know, and he didn't like have a girlfriend. He didn't, you know, like go to any social events. He just like, all he did was like rock climbing, like all the time. And those are, I think, sometimes the people that get like the movies and the TV shows made about them, because it's like, that's so different from like how a regular person can behave. I'm just talking like socially, like we need to be interacting with people, I think, as a species. But that's not, there are, you know, and yes, obviously he did something that no one else has done before. You know, was it because he had those mannerisms, or was it just because, like, you know, if he had lived a more like normal style life, would he have still been able to do this amazing feat? Like, who knows, right? But you don't have to work 20-hour days to start your own business, you know, because there are examples out there of people who have done that, you know, without, you know, it's not working hard, but without spending that much time doing it, or foregoing your, you know, your family or social responsibilities. And I think it comes down to like optimizing your life a little bit. And that's one of the things that I think, like making a list of your habits, your current habits, like scoring them. It's a little bit like, it's a little bit of work, and it's a little, maybe a little bit kind of like, all right, I don't want to like be too hard on myself here. There's plenty of, it's perfectly okay to keep negative habits like in your life, you know. It's just, as long as you're acknowledging them and you're aware of them, like that's the first step. Like, I'm trying to get back on the weight loss thing, trying to get to my goal of where I wanted to be when I was 40. I'm now 41. So I'm not starting over, because I have like some equity in my previous weight loss, but like I kind of went back up again. And where I'm starting with it is just like starting simple, like tracking my steps, tracking my calories, don't change anything else, you know? So I'm not like changing my eating habits right now. I'm not like exercising more than I have been, just for the first like 2 weeks. I'm just trying to be more aware. So the first step is like, okay, let's just like acknowledge like what I'm eating in the morning for breakfast, and what I'm eating for lunch, and what I'm eating for dinner. Like, I'm going to have this double cheeseburger. Like, I'm going to not note this down, and then I'm going to eat it and enjoy it. You know, I'm going to have a couple of beers, and I'm going to like put those on my list, and I'm going to drink them and enjoy them. And I'm going to like go for one walk a day and just kind of see how many steps it gives me, and that's going to be fine. And being okay with just kind of like with having that as a starting point. Like, that's my 1% movement for my weight loss, is just like, just start keeping track of what you're doing, and don't try to do anything more than that for now. And then the next step will be, you know, in my next sprint for my weight loss is going to be, you know, more along the lines of making a small change to, you know, like maybe it's just like, okay, let's just like have this thing, the same thing for breakfast every morning, that is like a healthy breakfast that is not going to like put you over the limit for calories, your calorie intake for the day or whatever, and go from there. and then do that for a couple weeks, and then try to get in the habit of just doing the one thing rather than like going hardcore. And then hopefully these things start to kind of like work together and become a bigger change, and it doesn't feel like a big change when I'm doing it because I'm doing it in small increments. The second thing that I have listed here is about walk. It says walk slowly but never backward is the name of the chapter. It's chapter 11. Let's see here. What did I have? Yeah, this is basically like, it's easy to get bogged down trying to find the optimal plan for change, the fastest way to lose weight, the best program to build muscle, the perfect idea for a side hustle. We're so focused on figuring out the best approach that we never got around to taking action. As Voltaire once wrote, the best is the enemy of the good. And I am like super guilty of this, and I think like this is kind of this might be like a streamer mindset too. Of like, well, I'm never gonna be as good as so and so at this, so I might as well just not even do it. Like, you don't have to be the best in order to do something. Like, do something because you want to do it. And I have on my note here like about my YouTube channel. They're talking about motion and versus action. So the difference between being in motion and taking action, the two ideas sound similar, but they're not the same. When you're in motion, you're planning and strategizing and learning. Those are all good things, but they don't produce a result. Action, on the other hand, is the type of behavior that will deliver an outcome. If I outline 20 ideas for articles I want to write, that's motion. If I actually sit down and write an article, that's action. If I search for a better diet plan and read a few books on the topic, that's motion. If I actually eat a healthy meal, it's action. And so, like, when I was reading this book, like, my YouTube channel is kind of like the first thing that came to mind for me, where I'm just like, well, I have to like have thumbnails, and I have to like plan out my calendar for my content, and I have to like edit everything, and I have to, it's just, and you get into this like overload of planning and things you have to do, and I'm just like, no, I can just like export my, just get stuff out there. And yeah, part of that is just like you feel like you're just kind of like shitting stuff out into the world, but like it comes with, or doing, so basically my plan is kind of like doing shorter things rather than just like, the best is the enemy of the good, like better done than perfect, right, is the kind of the mantra there. And that is how you like learn how to do stuff too. So by actually doing it, by like doing a 1 minute video, or like I want to create like a stinger for my channel, like a 10-second stinger, and in order to do that, I'm gonna have to like learn how to use the editing software that I have a little bit better. So it's like, okay, well, I can do this like 10-second project and play around with it, and kind of start there and just start doing stuff that way. And so I really kind of wanted to, this part especially is, it's funny, like we're reading a book about like how to plan, how to do things better, and he's saying like, don't plan how to do things better, just do it. Just do something. And I was reading kind of thumbing through another book, this book called The $100 Startup, and this is a book I was kind of like thumbing through to kind of like kickstart my business brain. And he talks a lot about the same things. Like, you might know how to write a very detailed business plan and a very detailed proposal, and estimate costs and do all these things to like to get your startup going, or your little business idea, your side hustle that you want to work on. But it's better to just like get stuff out there, and like if you have an idea for like an e-commerce store, like just start it and do it, and like get stuff out there and like edit it on the fly. And you'll find that a lot of the planning stuff kind of you didn't need necessarily, like, because you've already got it kind of in here. You don't have to like get it out on paper or present it to somebody else. So that was kind of like, and I have to tell myself that a lot, and that's one of the reasons I bookmarked this section in particular, because I think that's it's the curse of the artist as well. Like when I was making movies and stuff like that, it was like and writing, especially when I was doing like screenwriting, I was my own biggest critic. Like I hated everything that I ever wrote. Even though I was like getting A's in my screenwriting classes and people like liked the scripts that I wrote, like I hated all of them. And I don't know like why that is, but I think that like I understand why like there are actors who like don't go to see their own movies, or you know, like that sort of thing, because it's like it's just a I think it's just a kind of a you're a critic of yourself, and it's not necessarily that like you don't I can't like I look weird on camera and I don't want to see myself, but like I see the smallest every little imperfection and stuff that I create, like I notice more than anybody else, you know. um and I have a hard time even like not pointing it out to people when we're, you know, if we're watching like a video that I've done or something like that, or watching something, you know, reading something that I wrote. It's like, oh, I had a typo here, or you know, that sentence is weird, and people just like go right over it. They don't even notice. So, keeping that in mind of just kind of like just do it, and now you have it out there. Like if you want to write something, just like write a little thing and then post it online, or write it on a piece of paper. Like, you know, start a little poetry book or a creative writing journal, and just like write a sentence or a paragraph if it comes to your mind, and then it's down. You're not like, well, I'm gonna like, you know, month, you know, start writing my novel. um little bits at a time start to stack up, and that's kind of like what he's talking about, is how you can kind of start doing bigger things with smaller pieces. So let's see here. The next one is talking about habit tracking. I don't know why I had this one on here. Oh, so, and this is kind of like an obvious one. This is something that I already do, and I can kind of show you my trying to drink more water as part of this like weight loss journey. So this is like really like some basic bitch shit for my journal, but basically like I've got my little goal to, or my big goal to get to 205 by Memorial Day. My little path to get there, and I've got my little like reward set up for when I hit certain goals. And it's kind of cheesy, but like it's a visual representation of my journey, you know. And as far as my habit tracking goes, like I'm trying to do that with, I'm trying to drink more water, and so I've got like a little water tracker that like I have broken down by months to get me to like my weight goal. I'm trying to kind of like integrate those two things together. And it looks good, and I can kind of see like when I'm it's like it's almost like, if you look at it sideways, it's almost like a wave, you know. It's like up and down. I'll get to like drinking my full amount of water, and then like the next couple days I don't drink as much, and then I drink none, and then I go back up, and then I go down, and I go back up. And the goal is to kind of keep it more steady throughout the course of these like 4 months that I'm going to try to you know, drop a few pounds. But it's good because like you know, I'm about to finish my second bottle of water for the day, but then I fill it in my journal, and it's satisfying. Like it's satisfying to like tick off a little. I have a little like little glasses of water that are blank, and then I fill them in with blue when I'm done drinking, and that like is satisfying for me. It's easy, and it's a visual representation. I can see easy, like, oh, I didn't drink enough yesterday, so like, you know, make sure that you get on it today, or like figure out how to get some more water into your system today. And that's not a habit that I have fully mastered yet. Obviously, if you can look at that graph, but I'm trying, you know, and I think I have a plan that will work. So the last thing I have here is from further on in the book. And this goes back to the whole like finding a job thing for me. is basically finding how to find the thing and this that you're good at, that like you can get paid for and that you like to do. What feels like fun to me but work to the others? And this kind of pissed me off a little bit because I was like, well, I already found that thing, you know, but the business didn't work out. like I like to build websites for businesses that, you know, for small businesses, which is something that like people who own those small businesses hate to do, but it's fun to me and it feels like frustrating work for other people. But and like, what makes you lose track of time? Where do I get greater returns than the average person? Like, these are things that like that all that stuff like fit the mold for like what I was doing. The frustrating part was that it wasn't successful. I couldn't like make it work financially, you know. And it just became frustrating to try to get to the point where I was actually doing the thing. So rereading this section is going to be kind of like important to go over for me, and answering these questions like, what feels like fun to me but work to others? What makes me lose track of time? Where do I get greater returns than the average person? And what comes naturally to me? You know, and like really kind of having that honest conversation with myself as far as like, you know, sometimes you need other people to answer those questions for you too. So I might actually ask my wife to answer some of these questions for me, because there are things that maybe I am good at that, like I had some people tell me like, you should be a teacher, you know, and I was just like, like it's not something that I ever really thought about doing, but like that might be something that I'd be good at, and it might be fun for me, and you know, it would be fulfilling and worthwhile, and there are a need for good teachers, especially men. So yeah, so like going back to that section too, I think when I am kind of going back to looking for work, or looking at my next financial adventure, is going to be important. So again, like overall, if you guys did not read it in January, I think it's still worth picking up. And again, I read it in the book itself is like 250 pages. But it's really, it goes a lot quicker than that. There's lots of charts. There's lots of charts and graphs and pages that don't have a ton of. There we go. I need a little book stand there. I have one somewhere actually. It's a really good book, and you're not. I don't think it's necessary to subscribe to the actual like. If you can go as far as following this plan like you would follow kind of like a workout routine or a recipe. You don't have to do that. It's got enough, it's broken down in small enough chunks, funnily enough, that you can take certain lessons away from it and still get a really good benefit from it. So I definitely recommend it. And even if you guys didn't read it for book club, like pick it up and keep it handy, and you can kind of read. Yeah, even learning how to set the right guiding goals is super helpful. Absolutely. And it's almost like one of the things that I kind of took away from this book, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, it probably was, it didn't feel like a motivational book. Like it didn't feel like he was like, you can do whatever you want, you know, you just got to put your mind to it. It kind of, but it did kind of tell you that like, I don't, you know, he wasn't like saying like, Stellar, I know who you are as a person and I believe in you and you can do it. He's saying we all have the tools to make the changes in our life that we want to make. It's just a matter of how small do we have to go to start making those changes, and how much time will it take for those changes to kind of like stick with us. And then when we find that magic ratio, when do they start kind of stacking on top of each other, and you start to like take off a little bit, and it's going to be different for everyone. And so you can either like follow his guide or use the tools in this book to kind of like make your own, which I think is I think you learn more about yourself doing it that way, rather than just being like, okay, well, I'm going to do everything he says in chapter 1. I'm going to do everything, like read the whole thing, see what sticks with you, and then go back to it and pick out the things that speak to you, the sections that you want to focus on, and you might find that you might be able to kind of jump into the plan halfway through. So yeah, being aware of your goals, being aware of like your current habits, it all kind of comes down to really being present. I think even temporarily being present in your everyday life for an hour or a day or a week, and paying attention to what you are already doing, and how some of the things you're already doing may actually be helping you become the person that you want to be. So yes, so I started bullet journaling like 2019, like summer 2019, so like almost 2 years ago. I love it. Like, I think that combined with like starting therapy has been like a huge release, a huge kind of like breath for my brain. A huge deep breath, you know. Again, it's one of those things that's kind of like my water log where like I go through periods of time where like it's kind of like I'm journaling a lot, I'm journaling a little, I'm journaling a lot, I'm journaling a little, but I do try to at least do kind of like my reflections every day. And that's been the biggest thing, is the biggest benefits for me have been taking time in the morning and in the evenings to do my daily reflection, which could be as easy as like, what did I do today? Like, write it down, check it off, or like check off the things that I wrote down that I wanted to do. What do I want to do tomorrow? You know, like looking at my list of things I want to get done for the week and kind of just like prioritizing those things. Stuff comes to you obviously like as you're doing that, and you can kind of like go back and forth and adjust it. But like having that routine of taking 5 minutes of silence, you know, after everybody goes to bed, I'll sit down at the kitchen table and like just me and my journal and a pen, no phone, nothing like that, and then just kind of flip through the pages and look at what I was doing last week and look at what I want to do this week and that sort of thing. It really helps me kind of like slow my brain down. As far as goals and things that I want to do, still kind of putting that process together, but it does help me kind of like have a place where I can kind of put these ideas together, and either small tasks or big goals, and really kind of determine like that's not important. Like yesterday I spent the day, Monday's kind of like a more deeper reflection for me, where I actually like go through my goals, and kind of update them, progress on them, get rid of stuff that is no longer important. And that feels good too, of saying like, oh yeah, like last month I said I wanted to do this thing, but like I've never even moved on it at all, so like cross it off. Like it's just another thing kind of like off the list. Or like that, oh, I already did that, that's done. Or it's basically that's turned into something else, you know. Like I had like learn how to write a business plan was like one of my kind of things I wanted to do, and that like morphed into something else. I started doing it, and it kind of morphed into a different goal, and I was like, oh, this is done. This is not even what I thought it was going to be anymore, but it's something else now. And I have a road. The best part about it is I have a roadmap for all that stuff, and so that's really the big benefit for me, is being able to go back and flip through. Everything is indexed too in my journal, so like I know exactly where I can go to say like, oh, I want to look at my like you know, the garage project I did back in October, and it's like, oh, there's October garage project, okay, and I can just like flip to that page. All the pages are numbered, and I can kind of see like, you know, what I was thinking at that point. So it's fun, and it keeps me off my phone. And that's the thing about using an app, is that part of the reason I wanted to go with like the analog journal was to get myself away from being reliant on my phone for so much stuff. And there's something physical about using a pen and paper and having to be intentional about writing out words. That is, it sounds so stupid, but it really does. When I read it, when I was reading about like kind of the methodology behind bullet journaling, I was kind of like, that sounds really silly that like, writing can actually make a big difference, but it does. It turns out that it does. Like, as I'm writing down a word, it makes some connection in your brain, and that can sometimes spark other ideas, or you can sit there and be like, okay, what am I going to write down? Once you start writing down a list, you can be like yesterday when I was writing down my list or Sunday when I was writing down my list for the week, I was like, I just like writing all these items that I wanted to do this week, and I was just like, oh boy, this is a lot of stuff. And I can tell that rather than, because I'm like writing them all down at once, and it takes physical effort to do it. So I know like there's a trigger that happens in my brain now where I can say like, oh, I've written down a lot of different things here. This list is getting pretty long. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get all this stuff done. So I said to myself when I was doing that, like, okay, it's going to be a challenge this week. Like, you're going to have a bunch of stuff, you're going to feel like you have some obligations. And I know that because I've been doing this for so long that I know that like whatever that number is, it's not like, well, when I've got past 5 things, it's just my brain recognizes that like when I hit a certain level of, all these things have registered in my mind when I write them down, that I can kind of know like, oh, okay, like we're pushing the limit here for this week of like things you want to do. So just maybe like pump the brakes or accept the fact that like some of this stuff isn't going to get done. And then you can kind of like, okay, cool, noted. Let's move on, because there's always some other stuff that comes up. So, I really like it. Like, again, I've pitched this book. I've pitched this book a lot. This was the book I read that kind of got me on the method, the bullet journal method by Ryder Carroll. And I use it, like you can see this one's got bookmarks in it too. Like, I go back to it. This is basically like a toolbox for how to get a journal going. There's no right or wrong way to do it. But this is what I read to start. And it really did like change my life. And so I highly recommend it. If you're interested in it, like, give it a read and see if it works for you. Actually, a streamer was the one that kind of turned me on to bullet journaling. His name is The Hunter Wild. And I was like, he kind of posted pictures, I think, on his Instagram of his bullet journal one time. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And so I kind of like went down the rabbit hole and wound up getting the book. My current goal is to not step on Legos in my own office. What's the first step? Oh God. Nice, man. Yeah, I hope that that it works out for you. Because I'm an evangelist of bullet journals and kind of like breaking life down into smaller bits. It just feels less daunting, it all feels less daunting. If you have any questions about it, like, holler at me. You have you know how to get in touch with me, and I can share with you like how I how my journal layout goes and the changes I've made and the things that have worked for me and not worked for me. But it's a creative process. Mine is not like the super artsy ones that you see on. It's way more, it's such a like a dude bullet journal. It's just like straight lines and little icons and things like that. So you can make it whatever you want it to be. It's fun. It's an artistic process too, even if it's not like I'm not drawing like sketches of the birds in the tree outside or anything like that. Yeah. It was hard though. It was hard. I was like, I'm not doing this right at first. My first journal, was, I was I was really trying to do it. I was just following along with the book. And it's all in pencil, so it's going to be hard for you guys to see probably. But like, it's pretty ugly, you know? Like, this is, so September 2019 is when I started. My first journal was like, I don't know, it's just like, it looks pretty basic, you know? That's my index. And then my future log looks like super boring. Nothing there for the future log. And then like my, yeah, it's just all, this is just nothing to look at all. I mean, this is my TwitchCon 19 schedule, so I was using it during TwitchCon to like lay out my schedule. It's kind of a logging my travel. You can't really see that too well. There it is. But now, fast forward to now, and it's like, you know, I do like bigger headlines. The index is easier to read. I found the pens that I liked. You know, I do my Twitch calendars are kind of like fun to look at, and I've got like the layout the way I want it, where I have like my personal calendar like the week before, or that's the month. I have my month layout. These are my, I've got my little mood icons here. So like when I'm having good days, it's sunny, and when I'm having bad days, it's rainy. You know, that's helpful too, because like, you know, when I go to therapy, I can be like, sometimes it's 3 or 4 weeks, you know, in between sessions, and I can be like, oh, right. Like, I can just look at my calendar real quick and be like, oh, okay, sunny, sunny, sunny. And then like rain, what happened there? And I can go to that day and be like, oh yeah, like had a bad day with the kids, or like wife and I had an argument, or whatever, you know, or was feeling bad about myself, whatever. So, it makes accessing those memories really easy. But yeah, like, again, like it was a little bit of a struggle to figure out what worked for me, but once you get like your system, and the same thing goes for like just like any other habit. Former president did something insane. Yeah, well, that was just like constant. I'm pissed off about something. I'm pissed off about the world. Once you get a system that works for you, and that's why I had to reference that book. That's why I buy those kinds of books, because I have to reference them all the time rather than getting it from the library. You find a system that works for you, and it's like, oh, this is mine now. Like, this is how my journaling system works, and it's unique to me. And, you know, you could probably, like, a stranger could probably pick it up and look at it and kind of figure out like what's going on. But for me, it's like, at this point, it's like second nature. And I love doing it. Like every Sunday, I have like a little session set up for myself while I'll be like watching soccer or the news or whatever, and I just kind of sit down and plan out my next week. And it's like this nice little relaxing thing. It's like yoga for my brain, you know? I'm gonna like write a big headline and the date, and then like go back and look at what I did last week and look at my like monthly goals and all that stuff, and then just kind of migrate everything to the current week. So again, like, I'm into it, and if you guys ever need any like advice or help, if you know, even if it's just like the brand of journal or the pens that I use, whatever, like, let me know. I'm more than happy to talk about it. You can hit me up on Discord or email me or whatever, and I'd love to talk about it, because again, like, it's been super, super helpful for me in the last couple of years. So Tottenham Hotspur, English Premier League. How did that happen? I don't know how many World Cups ago it was. Come on, you Spurs. Where's my yeah, man. You go like this, right? Come on, you Spurs. You get frustrated or avoid journaling due to penmanship. That was one of the things that I was actually worried about. And I mean, you look in the first journal and it's really bad, especially with pencil. I found that getting really good pens helped with that. So I use these Pigma Micron pens. These are like art pens. And I like the 0.5 size. But that was one of the things where when that clicked with me, um yeah, I was like, it's usually because I'm going too fast. You know, when I really when that passage in the book clicked with me as far as um like being intentional about actually writing. He may actually talk about like, don't be messy with your penmanship, like slow down, like take your time. And now it's like, you know, it's hit or miss. Like there's some, like when I'm setting up my month and I'm actually taking my time to do things, like it's, my penmanship is legible. When I am kind of, sometimes my reflections in the evenings are just kind of I'm trying to get stuff out of my brain so fast, it's like it's no good. But it's really just like, you're gonna have to take it slow, and that's a big thing, is like, and I think like getting the stuff too, right? We're gamers and guys who build PCs and stuff like that. Like you got to get all the stuff. You got to get like the pens and the journal and the whatever, you know. Once you have all the stuff, it's like, oh, I want to take my time with this and just kind of like, you know, it is like putting a PC together. It's like you don't just like, you got to like slow down, screw it in, make sure the cables are nice and, you know, tucked away and all that stuff. And so just kind of like slowing down, really, that's the best advice I can give, is that I would go back and, yeah, geek, because I would go back and like look at my previous day's entries. I'm like, I can't even read this. Like, I don't even know what this says. And so that's like, again, like, you know, I have to go back and think about what I actually said, or what I actually wrote down, and figure out like what the hell that meant. But I found like if you slow it down, like, you know, find yourself going too fast, you're reading a line that you just read, you know, you just written, and it's terrible. Like, you know, just slow. That's it. Went to their friendly with Inter in 2019 right before the pandemic. Yeah, was it that same year? No, I went. I was still working at Stars. That would have been like 2018, 2017, when I when they played the MLS All-Star game here in Denver, and I got to go. I have a picture of myself with Harry Kane somewhere. I'll have to find it. I'll post it on Discord if I can find it. But like they had like an open practice the day before the All-Star game, and so it was free, and so we just like went there, and like we could like go right down to the field level at the stadium, and then we just watched them practice. And then after practice was over, like the whole team walked around this edge of the stadium, like shaking hands and taking pictures with everybody. Like anybody that came down, you know, they just kind of like walked through, shook hands, took selfies, signed stuff. Like it was amazing. And so I got like, you know, selfie with Harry Kane. Total fanboy. It was awesome. And then I went to the game and saw him score a goal, so it was great. It's on my bucket list of things to do, is to go to a Spurs Arsenal match in London, the North London derby. Going back to reflect on what I wrote last week was a nightmare, so I got frustrated and stopped. Yeah, yep. And again, like little bits at a time. So like I don't necessarily do like journaling, like Dear Diary type stuff. At least not every day. Sometimes I'll do that when I feel like I need to. But when I do a reflection, sometimes it's like, what I mean by that is kind of like ticking off the things that I actually did. And then sometimes, like a couple times a week only, I will write like a sentence at the end of the day saying like, today was a good day because like I got to spend the day with my kids and we went to the zoo and it was really fun or whatever. Or like, I'm feeling grumpy today and I don't know why, you know, like that's it. And just kind of like keeping it on like one line, or keeping like one sentence of just like that kind of thing. Even that, acknowledging that how you feel, taking the time to like write it out so that it's legible, and then moving on to the next day. Like it's almost like leaving it, like on the good days, it's like taking a deep breath and being like, you know what, that was a good day, I'm happy, well, time for bed, you know. And on bad days, it's like, you know what, I had a terrible day, I feel like shit and I'm grouchy, like I'm gonna write all that down and I'm gonna move on to tomorrow, and then I'm gonna write tomorrow's date down. And that in itself like triggers something in me that it's like, you know what, embrace this day and go to bed happy, or leave this day behind and sleep it off, you know. And it's all a mindset. It really is. So yeah, like I said, again, guys, any questions you have or whatever, like, feel free to ask either on stream or like holler at me on Discord or Twitter or whatever, and I would love to talk more about it, because it's something that I love to do, and I think it'd be helpful for anybody that like really wants to invest the time into doing it. So I'm gonna take a short break. I have to use the restroom, and get some more water. So I'm gonna run a quick ad, and then we will be right back and talk about some movies. All right. Dog's sleeping like a normal dog now. Event list. I don't want you to shut off. I. All right. Movie club. Oh, one last thing I want to talk about. I was just thinking about that while I was using the restroom. Atomic Habits. So the 1% improvement. Was it this book or was it another book? It's a similar concept. The 1% improvement thing was something that I actually was able to kind of like incorporate into my video gaming mindset as well, which is kind of silly. It's not silly, but it worked. So last season for Apex in season 7, I set the goal of like getting to the platinum level in ranked, which is like bronze, silver, gold, platinum. It's like level 4 out of, there's like diamond, something else, and then predator. I think there's 7 levels. So I got to the 4th level out of 7, and so that was the goal. The highest I'd ever gotten was to gold, and so I wanted to get to platinum. And one of the things I started doing was like when I was playing, especially when I was playing ranked, was like trying to learn one little thing about each match. Camera isn't back on. What? Uh-oh. Is something happening? App news issue detected. Oh. Okay. F5 at Geek. So yeah, so one of the things I wanted to do was hit that platinum level in Apex, and so I tried to kind of like take a little bit, one thing away from each match that usually the ones that I lost, which was most of them, right? Or lost, like didn't finish. Let's say didn't finish in the top 5. You know, top 5 is always kind of the goal. Top 5 is the goal. Top 5 is like a B. Top 5 is like, I mean, sorry, top 5 is like I give myself a B for that match. Top 3, I give myself like an A, and a win is obviously like A plus. So I'm happy with the top 3 finish. But a while ago, like what I was doing was I was getting so frustrated. This was like a year ago probably. I was getting so frustrated with like how I was doing that I was like I started keeping track of like why I was dying. And so I like started charting it and like making like a pie chart, and then for a while there it was actually on screen as I was playing during the game, or there was at least a link to it, or I would go to it in between matches. I would add like, oh, I like potato aim, like add that to the list, or like my teammate like ran away and left us by ourselves, like that's why we died, or like just got outplayed, or whatever, you know. Got turned around in a firefight and didn't know which direction I was facing. Like I would try to put those reasons down, and then I could kind of see like what I needed to focus on. And so I kind of did that mentally in the last season, where I was like, okay, especially in ranked, like let's try to like improve a little bit every day as far as like my score goes. So that meant like just sometimes it just means like getting points, you know, like increasing, like if you're figuring out when you drop, especially like I play solo a lot of times there's no comms there, so it's like you kind of have to just like by watching the game like figure out what your teammates are doing, what kind of hand you've been dealt as a squad, and sometimes you figure that out early. It's like, oh, these people are like super aggressive, or like this guy dropped on the other side of the map from us, so like we're just gonna this one's gonna be, it's just we're basically a 2-man team at this point, so let's just try to survive until we can like whittle some other teams down. But you learn those things like one match at a time, and then slowly you start seeing the same, you can kind of like see those things happen again in another match, and it like clicks sooner, right? And so you're like, okay, like I know exactly what we need to do in this match. Like we're gonna play aggressive. Like we got, you know, you can look at the person's stats and be like, this person's won 100 matches this season, you know, so like let's figure out what this guy's gonna do. Let's follow him, and see where they're going. And that like helped. I feel like super confident playing ranked now. I made it to platinum, and I don't think I'll ever get to diamond, but at least like I'll get to platinum again this season, and then just kind of keep going. I had probably, it's been like 2 weeks since I got there, and I was like, I'm just gonna stop playing, you know. I don't want to ruin this feeling. But this season we'll get there again, and keep playing and see what happens. But diamond's like, it's like the top, I think 5% of all players that play ranked make diamond. So I don't see that happening really anytime soon, but you never know. So I just wanted to throw a little tidbit in there of how it all relates to gaming. You name this. Nope. Movie club. It was The Thing. They Live. Can't type good. Assaults on Precinct 13. So for movie club this month, we did. It looks kind of janky, but whatever. For movie club in January, we did the films of John Carpenter, who is kind of a film hero of mine. For those that are unaware, I was a film major in college, and so I went through a period of time where, and I kind of like really fell in love with like 70s cinema, late 60s through the 70s, early 80s cinema, as far as like just kind of like the whole like what do they call those guys, like the Mavericks, you know, the Mavericks of cinema. And especially when you get to like the early sci-fi stuff and kind of those like gritty action movies and stuff like that, and John Carpenter is kind of this, he was always to me kind of like on this other level of like just doing things his own way and being kind of like unique. I feel like you can tell, or he's got a style, and you can kind of tell the subject matter that he tackles and kind of like the way that his movies look. And I've always kind of liked him as kind of like this, it's not cheesy, but like, you know, he's in that like Wes Craven vein, I think, as far as like, you know, being a little bit of a freak. And his movies are kind of freaky and different. And so I was thinking about, in December, I was kind of thinking about watching The Thing again, the 1982 version, and I was like, yeah, you know, maybe like we'll do a John Carpenter month for movies for Movie Club. So we did, and so we watched 3 movies: The Thing, 1982; They Live, which was 89, I believe, and Assault on Precinct 13, which was 1970 something. I gotta get my IMDb pages up here. Uh, 1976 for Assault on Precinct 13. The Thing was 1982. And They Live 1988. So I watched them in chronological order. So I watched Assault on Precinct 13 first, 1976, and then The Thing, 1982, and then They Live, 1988. So we'll go through them in that order. So basically, Assault on Precinct 13 is this movie about it takes place in LA, and it starts with like these police like basically ambushing members of this gang and like massacring them, and it's all about like the gang kind of like getting retribution against the police. So there's a weird scene where like there's this ice cream man. I don't really know what the deal is with the ice cream man. If anybody watched this movie and you can explain to me like what's the deal with the ice cream man in this movie, but there is he gets killed by the gang, but there's a witness who then runs away from the gang members, and he tries to get in touch with the cops. He can't. he winds up running to this police station, which is, it's like the last night. It's like one of those like cop movie tropes where it's like 2 days until retirement, you know, like, but it's like the police station is, the whole station is retiring. So basically they're shutting down this police station and moving it to somewhere else in the city. And so like there's nobody there. There's like the dispatcher is there, and the guy who's like in charge of the station is like his first day on the job, even though it's like 2 days until the station's going to be retired. And then let's see who else is there. There's two women, like one's like a secretary or an assistant, and the other one is like the dispatcher. And then there's this guy, and then simultaneously they are transporting they're transporting these criminals from, or these prisoners from the prison to a different prison, like a high maximum security prison. These guys are like bad dudes, right? And one of the guys is sick, and he gets really sick on the bus, and so they like need to stop to take care of this sick prisoner. And of course they have to stop at this station. They're like, oh, we'll go to this station right here, it's on the way. And so they get there, and there's like nobody there, and they can't do anything. I think even like, yeah, like it's just kind of like, it's very the whole scenario behind this thing is very kind of like manufactured. I don't like, this would never happen in real life. But the guy who witnessed the murder of the ice cream man runs to this station, and he's like, they're after me. And then like it's almost like a zombie movie at that point, because these people are all boarded up in this station, and these you know, all we ever see of this gang at first is like a handful of people, like enough to fit in one car. And then all of a sudden, like when this guy gets to the station, like there's just like it's like they come out of like, they look out the window, and then it's like behind every tree there's like a gang member, you know, and they're coming from behind the cars and behind everywhere, and they're just kind of like assaulting the precinct, right? And so the story is basically like the prisoners who are on the bus have to work together with like the cop inside the station, and the two women that are in there, and this guy who's looking for protection, to basically protect themselves against this army of gang members who are, you know, who are holding this, who are like sieging this police precinct. And so it's like, as far as like 1976 movies go, like it's pretty violent, I would say. It's kind of like indie movie cheesy at this point, you know, like 45 years later. You know, there's like plenty of scenes where it's just like, they're just like, they're holding the gun, and there's just like a noise coming out. There's not even any like muzzle flash or anything like that. Or there's just like guys falling instead of, you know, like seeing the bullets tear through their bodies. But there's like some blood, and, you know, there's like maybe one or two like face and head shots of, you know, it's definitely an R-rated movie for sure. But the reason I put it on the list is because it was one of the first movies that like got me into John Carpenter. Like, I had heard of Halloween, which is his most popular movie. I don't think I'd ever seen it because I was never really into like slasher movies. But I went to visit a like liberal arts school when I was getting ready to go to college, and the dudes I stayed with were film majors, and they were like film nerds, like big time. And they were like, I think they like kind of took this like pride in showing me like, oh, these are the movies that you watch when you're in film school. And so like they showed me this movie, they showed me Harold and Maude, which I'd never seen before, which was I've not seen since, which I may be interested in seeing again. But it was definitely like these kind of like these were not movies on the IMDb top 250, you know. These are movies that are kind of like more indie, and kind of not really what I was used to watching as far as subject matter goes. And I remember seeing this movie, and I was like, holy crap, this movie's amazing. I was really into movies like this when I was kind of like getting into the point where I thought I wanted to make movies for a living. And it's just kind of like cheesy. Like the stuff doesn't really make sense. It's a little bit cheesy, but it's also kind of like, you know, got a little bit of social commentary maybe there as well. The whole kind of like Die Hard type of thing where it's like one dude against like an army of like terrorists, was always kind of like appealing to me. And so I haven't seen it since before this movie, since before I went to college, and I was like, oh, this movie really kind of kickstarted my desire to try to really like make movies. And so I wanted to watch it again to see if it kind of like held up, and in some ways it did, and in some ways it didn't. I thought that like I'd never heard of any of these actors that are in the whole movie. Like, let me just scroll through the cast real quick again, but none of these actors I don't know if I've ever seen them in anything else. Like, none of them looked familiar to me at all. And none of the names looked familiar to me at all. The guy who played the police captain, Austin Stoker. That's a good name. He was in like a Planet of the Apes movie. Is he still alive? Still alive. Still acting even. So, still acting in movies. He's in The District, the TV show. Wild Thornberrys. Bold and the Beautiful. He's on soap operas. So, still acting. But no big name actors. But the acting was actually the best part of the movie, I thought. Like, the action scenes were kind of like, they didn't really hold up, you know, a lot of like static camera angles, and so you basically just kind of like, there's one scene where like the gang members are trying to get in from like the windows, and it's just like, it cuts to like the doorway where they're like shooting through the doorway at the windows, and then it cuts to the windows, and has guys like flailing and falling out of the windows, and it cuts to the doorway, and the guy's reloading, and he shoots the shotgun at the windows again, and it cuts back to the windows, and there's like more guys coming in. It's just kind of like, you know, like back and forth. There's not a whole lot of like different types of shots, and again, like that's just probably they didn't have enough money to do the setups, you know. It's basically like, it almost feels like they were like, we have this empty building, we should shoot a movie in it, you know. And so like that stuff didn't really hold up, but it was more about kind of like the drama between the characters, as far as like, how is this, you know, we know that this dude, this one prisoner that is having to, you know, kind of work with the police, is like a murderer, and this cop has to basically say like, all right, we're gonna put that aside for now, because like we're all just trying to survive here. You know, that's kind of where the best part of the movie is for me. It was like, how are these characters like working together to like get out of the situation. So like, I wouldn't watch it. I don't know if I'd watch it again. I'm glad I didn't like buy it. I watched it on, I think I rented it because it wasn't available on any service that I have. But it was like, again, I think if you're going through, it was good for this group of movies, like the John Carpenter movies, because I think like it is kind of a good representation of his like early work, and kind of sets the tone for the types of movies that he makes. So if you're doing like a kind of a retrospective on a director's work, I feel like it's always good to pick like that early not so good one, that early one that doesn't really hold up too well, but like was, you know, kind of like put him on the map. And this was definitely that movie for him. I think it was like this is the movie that put him on the map and got him the budget for like these other movies that we're gonna be like kind of talking about. And so again, like, I think if it's on Cinemax, it looks like, if you are like wanting to do that, maybe throw it on. If you're doing something else, you know, it's a good like maybe have in the background movie. But I don't think it's a movie that like people are gonna be like, oh my god, like this movie is life changing and I want to see it over and over again. A good representation of one guy's work, but not indicative of his like overall quality, as we will see by the next movie that I watched, The Thing, from 1982, which is with Kurt Russell. So it's the Kurt Russell one. Kurt Russell was, oh man, how old was he in this movie? He was just a young buck. He had that big old beard. Kurt Russell is born in 1951, so he is 70 this year. He'll be 70 in March. So he was 30 when this movie came out, approximately, right? Yeah. Wow. He looks way younger than 30 in that movie. Right? Yeah. 51. This was in 82, so he was 31 years old when this movie came out. I would have guessed like in his 20s, but if we can get like a better shot of him. Look at that. Look at this man. Look at this bearded man. Beautiful. A beautiful dude. That long hair, the big bushy beard. Like that's an Antarctica look right there. Like if I was going to Antarctica, I'd be like, I need to grow out I need to get the Kurt Russell look. Who's that? That's Justin Timberlake. Absolute legend. And this movie is legendary. I would argue. Oh god, that poster's so great too. I want this poster. Ultimate Alien Terror. It just starts off like so from the get-go. We talked about this a little bit last week, this movie, but it is, man. It's so good. Like again, it wasn't available on any services that I have, so I bought it because I'm like, I haven't seen it in probably 6 or 7 years, and I bought it because I was like, yeah, like I always go back to this movie and I like watching it, and someday I want to show it to my kids. So, excuse me, I need a tissue. And I'm so glad I did, because it just like from the get-go, the movie starts with like, you know, this shot of like, oh no, it's like an alien, it's like a flying saucer comes in, and it's like the beginning of Predator. It starts the same way, where it's just like you see a shot of the Earth, and then like this spaceship comes and just like lands. You know, you see it go through the atmosphere. You don't see it crash. You just like, okay, there is an alien coming to Earth. That's how this movie starts. And then you cut to like Antarctica, and it's like this. It's almost kind of disturbing. It's disturbing right from the get-go, because you've got like this helicopter chasing this. At first, you think it's a wolf, and then you're like, well, they're in Antarctica. There aren't like you know, the wolves don't live there. But it looks like they're hunting this wolf, and then as you get closer, you see the dog. It's like, oh no, this is a dog. Like this is like a husky, you know. And they're these two guys in a helicopter, and they're just flying around, like, and this one dude's trying to shoot the dog with a rifle, and you're just like, what? Why are they going after the dog? You know, like, one of the first lessons I learned in screenwriting class was like how to like how you identify a bad guy, you know, when you're introducing them to the audience. And it's like, and one of my professors was like, he'd call it like kicking the dog. Like, you know, if a character walks into a room and he kicks a dog, like, you know, he's a bad guy. Like, make it obvious if you want to make it obvious. It's like these people are driving, like, literally flying around trying to shoot a dog, which is a like, you know, most humans have some sort of like connection with dogs, and just like murdering a dog to start a movie is, or trying to murder a dog because they don't actually succeed. Is kind of a jarring way to start a movie, and it just kind of keeps going from there. Like, it never lets up from that moment of like the most calm part of the movie is when the spaceship lands at the very beginning, and then after that it's like, we're shooting dogs. These guys like get out of the helicopter and they're speaking a different language. We don't know what they're saying, and then like they start shooting at the dog again, and they wind up shooting one of the guys that we just met, and then like their helicopter blows up and they die, and so we don't get any information out of them, and then it all just kind of like keeps ratcheting up from there. Like, weird stuff starts happening and they have to figure out what's going on, and you know, it's just it's so good. It's like, I would say it's damn near like a perfectly paced movie, all the way to the end. Even the end itself is just like, it's one of those like, welp, I guess we're gonna die here, credits. You know, it's like, I love like movies that end like that, or just like, what? No, like, you don't like you don't see the good guys, like you don't see any of the good guys like die, but it just kind of like ends, like you don't, it's like open-ended, which is like, I think adds to like the terror of the movie of like, did the thing get away, or did they actually get it, you know? You never really get any closure on that. So aside, like on top of that, just based on like the pacing alone, so Precinct 13, the pacing was like pretty good, the acting was pretty good, there was pretty good chemistry between the characters, between the actors and the characters. But that's kind of like where that movie topped out. Like the effects and the, you know, the pacing of the movie were, you know, kind of meh. Like that movie had some lulls in it for sure. The tension was still high, but it wasn't like always high. In this movie, the tension was high for like the entire 2 hours of the movie. Which was like, keeps you watching. It keeps me like, I was like walking out of the room to like, I don't know if I was folding laundry or getting lunch or whatever, and I was just like, I don't want to miss like a minute of this movie. I was pausing it every time I walked out of the room. Add on top of that the like delicious special effects. Oh my god, they are just like a thing of beauty. They are so wonderful, and they're like one of the I like effects like that, like practical effects. You think like Star Wars, like the original Star Wars movie, A New Hope, where you have like a lot of practical effects as far as like models and but mostly like with the aliens and the characters. You have you know, like when they go to Mos Eisley, thinking especially like it's like people were probably like, and you see that in 1977, you're like, what the hell, like these are amazing like costumes, and like this looks like real, you know. This kind of like takes that, adds like a whole bunch of like splatter and like the sound effects. There's like, it's not all like blood and guts weirdness. There's a lot of that, but it's also just kind of like the unease of feeling that like something is not quite right. That's the whole mindset of the movie, is that like something is not quite right here. We don't know. We know that somebody in this group isn't who they say they are, and that we can feel it, but we can't really see it. You know, there's something off here. And then every once in a while, it'll show you like these visual cues of like something is like, it's human, but it's like not human, or it's like it's an alien, but it's like not all alien, right? Because this thing kind of like overtakes and kind of clones partially like parts of whatever it's parts of its host, you know. And there's just so many scenes with like the scenes with the dogs in the kennel when the first dog is like transforming, and they're all watching it, and there's like the tentacles are flapping out, and it's like this big ball of fur that like hatches, and then this thing comes out of it, and it's like a dog head with like arms and like spider legs or something like that. It's like, oh, what is this? It's so creepy. Like I had like this look on my, like I was my hands over my mouth while I've seen the movie, I don't know, a handful of times, probably like 5 or 6 times, and I was just kind of like, oh, like it's so gross. And I got to thinking about how in 1982 that must have been such, I would have like, I may have literally peed my pants if I had seen that movie in a theater on a big screen in 1982. Oh man, I highly recommend it. Like I said, like I bought it on like Google so I can stream it like whenever I want now. It's so good. And it's just like, I think it like really, especially with the effects and like the types of movies that I like I was saying, I don't really like slasher movies. So like hacking up human bodies with like axes and machetes is not really my bag. But like things popping out of humans, alien beings like popping out of humans or transforming into other humans, transforming into some sort of thing is like, I will watch that. I will watch that for sure. And it's so good. There's just so many scenes to go back to that are like they're like personally in my kind of like most memorable scenes of all time, right? And so like the one is like where they're doing like that one scene where they have he's got everybody tied up to the chairs, and he's testing all the blood with like he's got like the what is it, like a piece of wire that he's using, or a fuse or something like that, and he's got it with the flamethrower, and he's like getting all the blood to the people in the petri dish, and he like burns it to see like if people are human or not. Like, that scene is so freaking classic. It's so good. And then like one goes off and the guy starts like freaking out, and guys who are tied to the chair are like, get me out of this chair. Oh, like, makes my heart beat just thinking about it. It's so good. That one, and then like they're doing the guy's having a heart attack or whatever, they the clear scene. So he's got like the paddles and he's like getting ready to like, you know, jolt the guy with the what do you call this thing? Defibrillator. And so he like opens the guy's shirt and he's like, clear, and it's like he goes to hit it and the thing like opens up, the guy's chest opens up and like eats his arms. Like, oh man. And he's like, ah. It's just like, holy crap, it's so good. Annihilation, I would second that for sure. And that's actually a movie that like I want to go back to again. I saw it, I was on vacation in Mexico and I saw that movie, and I watched it like on a tablet. So I want to watch that movie like on my TV on a little bit of a bigger screen. But yeah, that movie was weird too. Like, again, like very like where are we? We're in this like dome thing, and like, are people turning into flowers? Like, what's going on here? That's an Alex what's his name? Alex Garland movie as well. And then the end was super weird too, but like, I need to watch it again for sure. But I would say that's probably a good one for as far as like modern horror movies. And again, like horror movies they're different now, you know? Like, yeah, no, it was like, I remember watching it and being like, I think watching it on a small screen like didn't freak me out as much, because I was like, oh, that's weird. But yeah, like in a way, like maybe Midsummer as well. Like, just kind of, it's kind of like, it's very like disturbing. It's not like scary. It's just kind of like, something's not right here. You know, like this all looks fine and nice, but like, you know, something is definitely not right. And it turns out that was the case, sort of, but it's like, it's completely normal for these people. I guess the thing isn't really kind of fit in that, because there's like, this is more of like a creature feature, you know? And I can't even think of like, I haven't seen Hereditary. But I can't think of any like modern creature features that are kind of like small scale like this, you know? The ones we get now are like kaiju movies. Or something like that. Like, I guess maybe like Ex Machina, maybe another Alex Garland movie. It's not really horror, but it's kind of like kind of a creature feature and kind of like disturbing, but really interesting. It's not really that scary. I guess it could be kind of scary. I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, they tried to remake this movie, right? They tried to remake The Thing. They did remake The Thing, and it was fine, but like, something about the way that the movie feels too, because it's like, it's easier for us, I think, sometimes to, this movie was made in 1982 and takes place in 1982, right? And it feels like that. There's no CG. Exactly, Norman. It feels like this historical piece almost, and that almost makes it scarier now. Like, did this actually happen? Like, in 82, did this actually happen? And like, this thing is like still out there in Antarctica? Like, I don't know. You know, it feels present in that moment. And when you watch movies that like, if we were to watch a creature feature now that takes place like in 2020 or in 2020 or 2021, it wouldn't have that same kind of effect, I don't think, on us. And partially because of the CG, partially because like there is something to be said for like not just designing a chest cavity opening, but actually having a physical thing that opens, and there's actually physical blood. Pitch Black. Pitch Black started the Riddick saga. I liked that movie too. That was one of my I like that movie. Came out like in the 90s, I want to say, like late 90s, 98 maybe, 98, 99. And that one was pretty good, but it wasn't like based in, that was kind of like in the alien mode. Yeah, you didn't really learn about the creatures either, like other than the fact that like, you know, there was a couple things they learned, like they were afraid of the light or whatever. But I like that too, that like that's a good, if you're building the formula right for one of these, like a classic creature feature movie, like you don't really learn about the thing that's hunting you, you know. Like Predator was like that, where Predator, like the first Predator movie, like they learned a little bit about it as it went along, but like you had no idea, like, you know, you had a ghost story from that woman that was basically, when it gets hot every year, like they come and hunt here. Like that's all you get for the reasoning why that thing was there. The first Alien movie, really, you don't know what, you know, what they are or where they come from, or, you know, you're learning about these things. It's like an origin film. In this movie, you don't know anything about the thing. Like you don't. It's a great name. It's like very kind of like nondescript, and you don't know anything about it at all. Like we don't know where they came from. We don't know. We know like they figure out like how it, like what it does, like what its gimmick is, right? But that's it. Like we don't know what the thing eats, or like why it's doing what it's doing, or, you know, what it needs to survive. Like you don't learn anything about it, which is like the unknown, right? That's like being afraid of the dark, because you don't know what's out there. You don't know what this thing is, and it kills you. It could kill you, you know. Like would it have killed, would it have just like turned into that weird dog thing and killed them all if they had just like let it do its thing? Who knows? And that's great. Like you got to have the mystery there all the way to the end, and that's why I think the end in that movie is really good too, because it's like it doesn't resolve really. You can assume, you can go either way. You can be like, you can assume it resolves and like they're gonna get rescued and the alien has been destroyed, or worst case scenario, like either one of those things is completely viable. So yeah, Alien, like those movies are so good, and they don't make them like that anymore. They just simply do not make them like that anymore. Same thing with like kind of like the big epic movies, like the David Lean style, you know, 3,000 extras riding horses, you know, together, like those types of movies. Like they don't really make those movies like that anymore. Was it 1917? That was kind of the closest thing I've seen in recent history to a movie that kind of was able to do that. Cloverfield is like a kaiju movie, yeah. But you don't see, you just kind of see like the tail, and you see, you know, that, yeah, it was kind of like a, and I think that maybe that's why I like that movie too. The first Cloverfield movie. But you never see the thing, right? I think maybe there's like a shot of it at the end. But yeah, like this movie, The Thing, definitely a classic. If you guys haven't seen it in a long time, I would say like either put it on your radar for when it comes onto a service that you have, or just go get it, like, and watch it, because yeah, I think so too. Like that he has like that that he knows how to like create that atmosphere that you need, right? It's just all you have to do is like insert the monster. It Follows was pretty good. We watched that one. That's in October as well. It didn't really have a monster per se, but I guess it kind of did. But you don't really, there's not really a resolution there either, and it's like everything's natural for everyone else except you know, the people who are aware of what's going on. But this movie's classic, and I love it, and it's like current, I'll say it, current top 10 for me, favorite movies. How would I make one of these? Oh man, I don't know. I feel like it's so hard. Like I would want to go back to I would do setting first. I would say you like in order to do a movie like this well, you would have to find the setting that like what you want to do is find a setting that is familiar and comfortable, and then just kind of like a perfect circle, and then just like flatten one side basically, and just be like, something's not right here, like this does not look right, or just make it a little bit oblong, like kind of like that, you know what I mean? Like start with a Coke machine, right? I've done it, right? Yeah, Yava was in my student film that I made when I was in college. I'll have to show it sometime. I think I actually found it recently on one of my drives. We'll have to have a special viewing. I'll probably get strikes because it's got like Primus music and Godsmack and a bunch of like copyrighted music in there. But I think it was maybe it was on my old YouTube channel. But whatever, we'll show it. I'll have a viewing. I'll make some popcorn and show it. But yeah, you have to kind of like take something that is somewhat familiar to most humans, and then like just kind of skew it a little bit. Either that, or like have people go from like a normal setting into like a perfect setting, and then or something that's like very, very like in Alien. It's like we're gonna get rich off of this thing or whatever, like, and then you kind of like go off the cliff. The thing that I would do differently, the thing that would be tough to make this movie now is the whole like CG thing, the whole kind of like, oh yeah, so it's like I'm assuming Nylab that's gonna kind of replace like a sniper, right? Yeah, you gotta set up a sense of isolation. Like camping would be a good one. That really, but that's you have like the slasher movies where the kids are at the summer camps. That sort of thing. It's dark there a lot. Yeah, you have to like, if you set it now, you have to see. I don't know. It's almost like that window has passed, because if you set it now, in the now times, yeah, you have cell phones, you have all these other things. Yeah, Us was pretty good about that. That was kind of like, that went off the rails real quick as far as like the road to Crazy Town. That movie was really good, but I never got the sense of like, I couldn't put myself in that situation. You know what I mean? It just felt so odd, but I really liked it, but it wasn't like, it didn't have that same type of terror where you could kind of put yourself in that situation. Yeah, Get Out, I mean, I think they were both really good. But they were, similar in some ways, but I think they were pretty different movies. Yeah, you have like modern technology. I feel like maybe you could do like a in space one. Maybe they've tried to do that a few times too. That really doesn't work out. Like in something in low orbit. An alien, whatever, parasite thing, or something like that. Or like you could do like a near future one where it's like, you're on some sort of transport to Mars, or you're living in the first colony on the moon or something like that. You could do if you wanted to go sci-fi. But your other option is to set the movie in the past, right? But if you do that, you run the risk of being like, well, there were movies made in 1982 that were taking place in 1982 that are better than that. South American guerrilla camp getting attacked, no support from the government, right? And then they get like butchered alive. They were not killed, they were skinned alive. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to do that now, because like we're almost desensitized to that stuff too. So like with the violence level and the gore and the splatter that you have to really kind of like make people scared has been done. Um, Green Inferno. I haven't seen that one. That's tough. I think maybe that's why we don't see those movies anymore, is because they are too small almost. You know, we would rather have like the big 40-foot screen kaiju. We want Godzilla like screaming at us for 2 hours, or Transformers, or you know, stuff like that. You almost have to, and the indie kind of the indie movies that are horror movies are kind of tend to be in the more kind of like kidnapper, like torture porn kind of thing, you know? Yeah, I think so. I think it's like you make people feel uneasy. And I don't know, like I would love to see like a behind the scenes on this movie in particular, to see like if they were like, this movie we want to, like, if when they pitched it, like, we're gonna do some crazy shit with like the effects here, with the practical effects, or if they were just like, we don't want to see the alien, kind of like how Alien did it a couple years ago. We don't want to see it too much, because they definitely went from like not seeing it all to like you just get like some insane effects. So I wonder like what the, you know, where the focus was when they were making the movie. Like, it doesn't feel like they were focused too much on the practical effects. That stuff is obviously like very good and very effective in this movie, but they didn't like fall in love with it, if that makes sense, you know? Like, there's not like these gratuitous shots of you know, the alien. It's kind of like they cut to it real fast. And I think that also kind of like, you get like these shots of like, was that a face that I saw? Ew, gross. And it's almost like so fast with the edits, and you don't see it for very long, or they like douse it in flames, that like your brain gets these like familiar like a dog face, you know, spider legs, like that was that dude it's that dude's face. It looks like that dude's face, but you only get it for like a fraction of a second or a couple seconds at a time, and that makes it even more. It's almost like averting your eyes, you know. You're like, ah, you know, like somebody puts a needle in the arm, you know, like that. Like, you saw it go in, and that's almost like, if you watch the whole thing, it probably wouldn't be that upsetting to you. But if you don't only see it for a second, sometimes is like, you know, you go back and like Event Horizon had a couple couple of those scenes where they're watching the old captain's logs, and it starts to like cut through all these like disgusting people getting eviscerated, and like the guy holding his eyeballs out in his hands. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like that part scared the shit out of me the first time I saw it, first few times I saw it, and then like you go back and you feel like frame by frame it's even grosser, man. I've done that in the DVD. I remember like going back and going through frame by frame and just being like, oh, and you see all that stuff, you know. Persistence of vision, right? Like, even if you don't register it, like, it's in your head. It's kind of freaky. But that movie, whew, yeah, Event Horizon. Ugh, yeah, love it. So yeah, again, in summation, The Thing, top one of the best movies of its kind. One of my favorite movies of all time, and I have recently, upon viewing it, reaffirmed that. Yeah, if you didn't watch it, if you watch one of these three movies, I would say this is definitely the one, especially if you haven't seen it before. It might help to watch with somebody who's not a fan of horror movies, because that could be pretty funny. Somebody who doesn't like gross out movies. All right, the next movie we watched, They Live. I'm not gonna spend too much time on this one because honestly, I'm not sure that this is probably like I would rank this one third out of the three movies out on this list that we watched. It's classic. I don't know if did you see it? Did you watch it recently? Because I want to know more. Would you like to know more? I would like to know more about what specifically you love about this movie. I had a hard time with this one. I was expecting to really like like, oh my god, this movie is like so cheesy and you know, heavy-handed with its message and all of that stuff, which it was. But especially after, like, I watched The Thing and They Live on the Same Day, like, and so am I, sucker for near future dystopia, but I don't know, this one didn't really do it for me, man. Like, first of all, I think that Hot Rod not really able to carry this movie any, like, in the now times, at least, you know, like, I feel like we talked about this last week too, that like they were trying to kind of like capitalize on this WWF crossover thing before, like, the guys were good actors, like The Rock and John Cena, or at least like passable actors. They were trying to, it felt that part felt kind of forced to me. Like, they felt like they were trying to make him happen, you know? He had too much screen time. Like, it's okay to have him as like the lead role, but like, don't make him like the star of the movie. You gotta have other people, and they had Keith David there, who's good in almost anything he does. But I would have liked to have seen a little more of Keith David and a little bit less of the Hot Rod. Totally. And I think, like, I do think that this movie, it's funny because they haven't remade this movie, right? I really feel like this movie would be ripe for a remake now, more so than the other two, which have been remade. Like, you know, the media is lying to you. There is a conspiracy going on. There's like, this all sounds familiar, right? Oh, dude, I will fight you on that one. That was my least favorite part of the movie, the alley fight. That was my least favorite part of the alley fight. It was the alley fight. There is a secret cabal of people who are running the world, and they have secret meetings, you know? Like, it's like, all of that stuff is like, you know, people are talking about that in real life now, IRL. I don't know what the political discourse was in the late 80s, but we're coming out of the, you know, the Wall Street guy era of commercialism and you know, the effect of like TV on people and that sort of thing was all kind of just becoming this, like, more of a concern. And so, yeah, I think when the movie came out, it probably like was like, it may have even been a little less subtle. Like, you know, you put on the sunglasses and it says obey, you know, consume, like, have babies or whatever, you know. It's like everything you see is telling you. It's still the case. I just think we're all aware of it now. It's like, you know, we don't have to wear the glasses to see what's going on there. But you could take it a step further. I think this is a movie that I think that if you ratcheted it up, you could remake it in like present time, and I think it would be pretty cool. What would it be though? It wouldn't be sunglasses. It would be like an app on your phone, like augmented reality, right? Like, you put on like HoloLenses, or you look through your phone on a certain app and you can kind of see everything, or something like that. I don't know. You take pictures on like an Instagram app, and when the pictures come out, it's, you know, it's what is really behind. Who could remake this? Man, who does movies like this now? I feel like maybe Taika Waititi could do it. He doesn't really. It's not really a horror movie. And I think he would be able to do it with a little bit more humor. That was the other part too. The movie wasn't very funny. Like, it was unintentionally funny. And there were some parts that I think were like so cheesy and bad that like they were funny, but like I was like laughing at it, not with it. But I think you could do a movie like this that was like more played on more of the comedy, and I think you could even go with a wrestler, and you could even go with John Cena in this role, and it would be funny. Someone make a more serious version. I think it really depends on like what you see when you're looking through the sunglasses, so to speak. Whatever they choose as the gimmick, you know, the MacGuffin. Um, I don't know, man. Like, that's hard. I don't know if there's like a lot of people that are kind of doing sci-fi movies like this on the reg, you know. Yeah, I think it has to be, at this point, it has to be kind of tongue-in-cheek. I don't think you can do a movie like this in like a serious way, you know, because it's the way it's presented itself in general is so heavy-handed that like you have to kind of be like, yes, I'm hitting you over the head with this topic, you know. Yeah, maybe like a conspiracy movie, right? He'd be able to handle like the sci-fi part of it. I'm just trying to think of like directors that like are good at kind of conveying that like conspiracy or like one man versus the world kind of thing, you know? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I can't. I'm having a hard time like getting my mind around like doing it in a serious way. Michael Bay. Oh man. I mean, that would be a version to make, you know? That would be one way to do it, I guess. Every time he puts the glasses on, like everything he looks at explodes. Safdie brothers. Who are those guys? Oh, Uncut Gems? Maybe the Duffer Brothers. If they could make movies, the guys who do Stranger Things. That's kind of, I mean, that's Stranger Things is kind of borrows a lot from, you know, this period of time in these types of movies. I feel like those guys have seen some John Carpenter movies for sure. But they're able to kind of like balance humor in there as well. I've been interested to see what they would do with something like this. Like they definitely need to do like a remake of an 80s movie at some point. That group, that team, like when they make the jump to like movie feature length stuff, this is where they need to draw from. They need to draw from like this time period and these types of movies, you know. I mean, that TV show is based, so they probably wouldn't want to do that because like Stranger Things is kind of like, it's already doing that, you know. It's already like Goonies meets Alien meets, you know, E.T. meets like all these like 80s movies. But maybe they could like capture that vibe, and it's like scary and funny, right? It's like not, there's parts of it that are not serious and there are parts of it that are serious. That's why those movies that show is so great. It really does kind of like have that like early Spielberg vibe to it, where it's like it's an adventure and it's scary and it's like grosses you out, but it's also like funny and it can make you cry, and like they're very good at like capturing all of that. And obviously they can kind of draw it out over like a 8 or 10 episode season, but like they know how to get that feeling out of a piece of media. And I wonder if they can boil that down into a 2-hour thing, and even take what they've learned from making that show and making it a 2-hour movie that's set in the present time. There's your challenge, Duffer Brothers. Remake They Live in the present time. Go. That's my choice. But that fight scene, let's go back to the fight scene for just a second here. Way too long. Way too long. That fight scene was like the length of a WWF match. And I know that was probably the point, but oh my god, I was just like, stop. Maybe it's because I have like 2 boys and like the fights in this house sometimes go on forever and I'm just like, stop fighting. But I could feel myself saying at the screen, like, stop fighting. Like in that scene, I went out, that was the part, like with the thing I was saying, how every time I left the room I had to pause the movie because I didn't want to miss anything. that was a scene where I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna go get something to eat. That was me going. I went to the concession stand, and like I came back, and they were still fighting. Just put the sunglasses on and end the fight, right? Exactly. Just put them on, man. And he's like, no, yes, and then just the whole like, literally, there was that one part where they're like in the 80s, and I don't know if they still do that. I don't watch wrestling anymore, but when they're like the two dudes standing in the middle of the ring, they're just like, they're just like punching each other back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, like that literally happened in a Hollywood movie, like on the screen in this movie, and it was I was, and I guess I wasn't like, I don't know. You ever have those moments where like you watch a movie and you're like you realize sometimes after the fact that you were watching it the wrong way? Maybe I was watching this movie the wrong way. I don't know. I wasn't expecting it to be like this badass movie, but I was also expecting it to be more like, I was expecting to laugh more at it, and I wasn't. But I guess I should have been laughing about that it was so dumb to fight about that. Like Fargo was a movie where when I saw it the first time, I was like, I think like the VHS case of Fargo was like a scary horror movie from the Coen brothers, you know? And I was like, okay, and I watched it and I was like, this movie is not scary. It's kind of dumb. And then I was like, wait a minute, this movie's a comedy. And I realized that like years later. I was like, the movie's supposed to be funny. It's like a dark comedy. And went back and watched it again in that mindset, and I was like, oh, this movie's great. Like Fargo is a wonderful movie. But the first time I watched it, I was just like not prepared for what it was supposed to be, you know? And it's not like, you know, some movies are unintentionally funny and they turn into comedies, you know? And some movies you don't know. Like my wife and I were watching Starship Troopers last week, and she was like, is this movie supposed to be this bad? And I'm just like, I don't know. Like, and bad in like a good way. Like we were like getting high and watching Starship Troopers, which is a fantastic way to watch that movie. And it's so fun. In that same way, it's like got gore, and it's got like sex, and it's got like, you know, terrible acting and awful lines, and it's just like so heavy-handed with like, these people are Nazis. You know, like it's brilliant, but at the same time you're watching some scenes and you're like, this is so bad, it's hilarious. Yes. And I think Starship Troopers is tongue-in-cheek, but like there are certain times where like Paul Verhoeven lived through, the director, he lived through the Nazi occupation in Sweden. So the subject matter is very near and dear to him. It is. And it's nothing like the book, really. I mean, the character names are the same. But like, if you didn't know that, if you know, it's almost like, I don't know. You can watch Starship Troopers, I think, like if you're an innocent person, you could watch Starship Troopers having never seen it before and being like, this movie's just bad, you know? But like once you know that it's like satire and you have some context for it, then it becomes like brilliant, you know? But sometimes you have to like have that pointed out to you. Did he also live through Pirates? I don't know. But Starship Troopers is great. So one of the early on movies that we did in Movie Club and is what's called Repo Man. And this movie, Repo Man, was better than They Live. And Repo Man fits the mold for this movie of like anti-establishment, something weird is going on in the background, maybe aliens or something like that. No, that was Gora Verbinski. The same guy who did The Ring, I think he did that, The Ring, and Rango. That guy's got quite an oeuvre. Gory. This guy. This dude. You did The Ring, right? Yes. The Ring, and then Pirates of the Caribbean, and then a Crystal Method short video. But if you guys have not seen Repo Man, if you like They Live, I challenge you to find the movie Repo Man with Emilio Estevez. If you have not seen it, or if you've seen it like maybe once or twice, watch it again and tell me what you think. Because that movie was like bonkers. And then it was like, this movie was almost like the Hollywoodized, it felt like the Hollywoodized version of Repo Man. And that's kind of what I kept thinking when I was watching this movie. I was like, Repo Man is better than this. It did this type of movie better, where it's just like, I'm just this like down on my luck LA, dirty LA dude, and I got caught up in like this like interstellar drama of people trying to control society. So yeah, give that one a look. That one's kind of hard to find, but it might be on Stars actually. It was when I watched it before, at least. Nope, it's not on any services. But you can rent it. Harry Dean Stanton's in that movie, though, Tracy Walter, this guy. Got a bunch of character actors. Emilio Estevez. Good. Yeah. So, this month we're changing the pace a little bit. Is that worth paying for? What is it? To rent it? $4? $4 to rent it in HD? Sure. $4. Pop some popcorn, 2 hours of your time, have a couple drinks. I think it's good. I don't know. I almost kind of like watching They Live made me want to watch Repo Man again. Actually, I was like, full disclosure, I was like super high when I watched that movie, and I was like, my wife was in the bedroom, like I was watching on the couch, she was in bed, and I was just like dying laughing. It was just like. It was a movie. It's just so goofy, and there's one part in particular, I won't say what it is, but where I was laughing for like probably 10 minutes, and I don't know if it was the vape or if it was actually that funny or a combination of both. But I couldn't stop laughing. I probably missed like 5 or 10 minutes of the movie because I was laughing so hard. But he laughs at it too. The thing is, the guy in the movie laughs at it as well, and that's what made it funny. That it was like self-aware, and that's kind of why I didn't think that like They Live was like super self-aware. I almost thought like it was trying to. I forgot what he says, but like he drops her off. There's this girl that he's trying to date, and he drops her off at this like society that she is, and it's called like UFO Society or something like that. And he like reads the name of the plaque, and then he laughs and just like takes off in his car, and it's so funny because it's just like it's so goofy. Like I forgot what the exact name of the society is, but you'll have to tell me when you see it. But it's really funny. But I felt like They Live was almost like trying to take itself too seriously, and maybe that's what it is for me, is that it doesn't have that kind of like Starship Troopers like this is satire kind of thing to it, like. And I think that's the acting, like the characters themselves are kind of like not having any fun. It feels like Roddy Piper is not having any fun in this movie at all. Like even the scene where he's like shooting up the bank, I was a little bit like, oh, like he's kind of like this is like a mass shooting he's doing here. This is kind of making me feel a little uncomfortable. Like that part doesn't really hold up. With the guns and stuff like that, like I always more wrestling, less guns, but also like shorten the wrestling down a little bit, shorten the fights. So cannot recommend They Live, sadly. I mean, see it because it's like a funny concept, I would say, but I would recommend Repo Man first if you're interested in watching this movie. If you like Repo Man, maybe watch They Live. Go that way. Also, vice versa, if you love They Live, you should watch Repo Man and tell me what you think. All right, I've gone over today, but we've had some good chats here about about books and movies. This has been fun. This month we are doing a tiny little book called On Tyranny, which is about anti-authoritarianism. The theme for the book club this month was free speech, which is actually, it was harder to find books in that category than I thought it would be. But this one's supposed to be pretty good. And it's very short, and it's like $6. So there's no excuse not to read it. We'll report back and talk about it first weekend March. I think we'll do it on March 2nd, a month from today. You have a whole month to read 100 pages. Can be done. I'm also reading Dune, finishing up Dune, and the other book I'm reading after I finish On Tyranny is called I forgot what it's called. One Voice, No Vote, or something like that. One Person, No Vote. It's about voting rights. No books on free speech figures, right? Seriously. We should write a book about that, and then my stream gets immediately cut short. So those are the 3 books I'm going to try to get through in February. Few hundred pages, probably about 300 pages of reading total. We'll see if I can do that. I've not read any yet. So far I'm on 0. The movies, we are doing rom-coms, so we're doing a book about anti-authoritarianism and then movies about romantic things. So The Big Sick, which I have not seen, Palm Springs, which I have also not seen, and 10 Things I Hate About You, which I have seen. So interested in talking about those movies as well, because I am not a huge fan of rom-coms, but it's gonna be fun to go through these movies and check them out. So always like to be pleasantly surprised by those types of films. So for now, I will go ahead and send us over to somebody. Let's see here. You guys want to watch some video games or some music, or we do Destiny? Let's do Bands in Town. Bands in Town has a good Twitch channel, and they have been throughout COVID. They've been highlighting touring musicians who are having a hard time making ends meet. So every day they have kind of a different genre of music that they highlight, and some days it's like a grab bag of all things. So enjoy the rest of your day hanging out with some decent music. Who's on? It's most liked, so I think today is one of those days where they're kind of like they're going around. Looks like this guy's like kind of a singer-songwriter type. Let's see.
When you get your stuff out there, you can pretty much do.
That's Lil Nas X. That's not who we're talking about. Been always a pleasure, man. Thank you guys again for having the chats today. I really enjoyed doing this, and it, having the feedback with the movies and the books as well, really makes it more fun. So I appreciate you guys being here and hanging out. Let's see what kind of music this guy's got for us. Oh, starting at 2 p.m. Eastern. That is so in like 3 minutes, Paper Citizen is coming on. So, hi T-Bone. I'll just hang out for a minute until these guys. They're gonna start in like 2 minutes. So, I'm gonna go ahead and send you guys over there, and hopefully you enjoy the music. And I will be back tomorrow night. We're gonna get into some Apex Season 8. Hype. Yabba, let's play. Hit me up. Alright guys, I'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you so much for hanging out, and have a good rest of the day. Bye bye.